All right. Well, it's been an interesting week. Had our second practice of the week today. Just kind of shortened it up a little bit because of our numbers keep dwindling a little bit with these injuries. Unfortunately, from the Houston game, KJ Sales, we found out yesterday he's going to be out for the season. The good news is he's not going to have surgery on his knee, but it's something he's going to be out for the next 4 to 5 weeks. And also Kevin Kegler, one of our defensive linemen, looks like he's going to be out for the year. He's set to have surgery this Thursday. Blake Green, another defensive lineman, is going to be out this week. There's a chance we could get him back for UCF. And then still questionable with Bellamy, Damaris Bellamy, and Antonio Greer are both questionable for this week. So, as we've been talking about, this is just been a heck of a year and difficulty just with the numbers to be able to practice. We are legally allowed to dress out our graduate assistant coaches, so we have 2 of our GAs that have been dressed out in pads working on our scout team, and now we've used the kickers out there on the scout team to try to have a chance to give us a look. But we're definitely really thin and trying to keep everybody healthy enough so that we can have a chance to play Saturday. So that's really where we are here going into Navy.
You were saying, Jeff, last week after yesterday, maybe the team was a little bit tired. How do you balance that? I mean, you have to practice.
Yeah.
But by the same token, you can't have.
Yeah, it's tough. I think there's obviously a lot of challenges this year that's different, but I think this is a big thing that maybe a lot of people miss that hasn't been talked about as much. This year you have guys starting off the season that opted out, right? So that's one group there, and then you have players that are out due to COVID-related issues, whether they're positive and they're in isolation, or whether they had contact tracing, they're in quarantine. So that's another group that comes out, and then you have your standard injuries, right? And so in a normal year, you don't have the opt-outs and you don't have the COVID deal, so all you have is injuries. And if we were just limited to that, we would be in good shape to continue practicing the way we want to practice and all that. But I think at corner, I looked at it last night, we started with 8 scholarship corners to start the year, and we're at 2 right now going into this game. We started the season with 8 D tackles for our 2 D tackle spots inside, and we're at 2 right now, counting walk-ons going into the game. And then for our 3 safety positions, we started the season with 8 scholarship players, and we're down to 3 for the 3 spots. So, I mean, you literally are 1 ankle injury in practice away from having to cancel the game. So that is that's a challenge. But whenever I went back and looked through those, you had maybe 1 or 2 opt-outs at each of those. And then we currently have, maybe 2 guys out due to COVID in each of those. And then you have injuries at each of those. And so it's just the math doesn't add up. I'll be looking forward to next year when we get back and we have, 115 guys out there for fall camp. Where right now I think today we had 63 practicing. But that counts. I think we have 4 guys that are ineligible due to transfers or academic-related situations.
Is that more, like with a program like this, I mean, you can't let it get you down, but, I mean, this isn't Clemson where you lose Trevor Lawrence and the guy comes in
Yeah.
and he's just as good as Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, yeah, right now it's not even about the situation we're in numbers-wise right now is not even about the guy that goes in is not as good as the guy that was. It's the fact that the guy that goes in looks behind him and doesn't have anybody behind him. So we can't even get to the point where we're like, I wish we had a better player to go in there. It's really a point where you just, hope that they can. And then the other thing that's a reality is, I think like Mike Hampton, I think he played over 100 snaps Saturday. So you play every down on defense, and then your defensive players are your special teams players, right? Even though you may have 18 offensive linemen, your offensive linemen can't do anything other than field goal, and then you have 3 guys on punt. So all of your specialists are coming from your linebackers and DBs, your corners and safeties. And so I think Mike played around 80 snaps defensively and then about 25 snaps special teams wise. So that's why yesterday we basically came out. We got a good stretch, and we did some 100 yards, kind of get the lactic acid out, and then we did an hour of walkthrough, versus Navy's offense and Navy's defense. And then today we practiced for about an hour and 10 minutes just for scouts, because we can't afford to go against each other and have a receiver go up with a DB and a DB come back and sprain his ankle. So, unfortunately, I never thought as a coach before 2020, you never thought you would be in this situation where you're literally just trying to get to the game because, the guys want to play. But it's a tough balance. But, I told our players after practice today, I said, number one, I'm really thankful and proud of the scout team guys that continue to show up each and every day, and they're going every rep, every practice because there's nobody else. And then also we got a lot of guys that are banged up and that know for us to be able to play, they have to play this week, and so they're pushing through some injuries so that we can have a chance to play. So I just told our guys, hey, I'm proud of that, and we got to do the best we can and work to improve. And rather than have a 2-hour practice with a lot of breaks, we're going to have a fast pace, a lot of energy, and a lot of good intensity and all that communication for about an hour and 15 minutes. And the guys responded really well, and thankfully we made it through today without any injuries.
You talked about establishing a culture, which you can do regardless of number, but how about just putting your program in? How far?
Yeah.
Where do you think you would be? Are you behind there? What do you think about that?
There's definitely going to be some positives that we can take out of this year. Obviously, it's not going to be our record. The positives are going to be whenever we show back up in January, is the guys that are still here, like, it's important to them and they're willing to push through and to fight. So that, number one, there's kind of been, this year's kind of a filter, if you will, for the guys that are willing, because this is hard. It's real, especially when you have a record like we have right now. It's easy to raise your hand and say, Coach, I'm out. Right? You see that all over the country. And so for our guys to continue to show up every day, like, this is a good challenge that is going to make me feel really comfortable with the guys that are coming back, that they have some good fight in them. And then the other thing is just like you're talking about, establishing the culture, the standard, and if guys aren't going to study hall, if guys are showing up late for meetings here and that you handle that, and those guys understand what the expectations are. But every week it's a new quarterback, right? And it's a new linebacker core, it's new guys in the secondary, and so it's not an ideal scenario. We'll probably get more out of spring practice, quite honestly, than we've gotten out of some of these games. But at the end of the day, everybody's playing, right? The other thing that we're not going to do, and that I'm proud of our guys, is we're not going to come up with excuses and all that stuff. At the end of the day, when they kick it off, you got 11 guys out there, they got 11 guys out there. We got to coach better and play better. But big picture wise, when you're looking at your program, this would be one of those things. I don't think this sets us back. I think to be honest, the adversity and all that stuff, hopefully we're getting 2 years worth of adversity in 1 year, so we can be stronger from it. That's the mentality that I'm trying to take and our players are trying to take.
And Jeff, a number of players got some extended playing time against Houston that otherwise would not, and there were a couple of, what was your assessment of some of the efforts that you saw?
I thought the effort was solid. It was just more. We're just tired. To be honest, it's just there was a lot of that. We had guys in position to make plays, and we weren't able to make the play. But truthfully, the guys that are getting extra playing time are your walk-ons that have been on the scout team last week. So with all due respect, that's not guys that we're developing to be starters next year. They're really just guys that are kind of moved over to be able to help you continue to play. And hey, for them, that was me. That was me. Whenever I played at Clemson, I was a walk-on, ended up earning a scholarship. I was the holder, and I was on scout team as a wide receiver. And there's a couple games I got to go over there and get in a little bit. So those are memories that those guys will have. But I'm not sure that it really builds a lot of depth. I think our roster is going to look a lot different next year whenever we get out there from top to bottom than maybe where it is right now. Our number is 120, I think, next year, and right now we have 65 guys practicing. So if you can imagine showing up in August with 120 players practicing compared to where you are at 65, I mean, it's going to be a completely different scenario. So you just have to accept it for what it is, and stay positive, keep the guys positive. Probably the guys right now, they're keeping me positive, watching them out there having fun, flying around. Even though I'm looking at it from a coach going, this doesn't look right. Like there's nobody, we're not subbing anybody in during practice. It's the same group standing. It looks like a high school, situation. But the guys are still having fun, and they're still communicating and running around and all that and pushing through. So that really, I'm sure people on the outside think with your record, you just go in there and tell them how bad they are. But that wouldn't accomplish a lot right now. I think we got plenty of time in the off season to, address some of the depth issues that we have. Once you get in the season, you kind of are where you are. You can't bring in extra people or anything like that.
How was Marsh? I know he exited with injury on Saturday.
Yeah, he's practiced. I think he had sore ribs, so we think he should be okay this week. He's practiced and done a solid job.
Cade traveled with the team and suited up. Was he just kind of a last-minute scratch at the end?
Yeah, he can't. He's still trying to throw with his shoulder. It's something that doesn't need surgery, and he may be ready a week from now. But right now, he's just doing a little bit of soft toss. But I asked him if he was technically cleared. He could have gone in and hand the ball off. He just can't throw the ball. But we would have had to lose 4 quarterbacks to get that situation. But I asked him if he'd want to travel and want to go dress out. And we had extra availability, and you never know. We may, all these places we go, we could be going back in another year or two, and he may be, playing at quarterback. So it's just a good experience for him to go and be around the guys.
Hey, who are some of the guys specifically who have helped you get through this attrition? And there have been some leaders.
Yeah, I would say Dwayne Boyles has been one that's continued to played a lot of snaps. Mike Hampton has been a guy that's played a lot of snaps, hasn't really come off a lot. Some of those guys up front, Rashawn Yates. Really the 2 guys that we have inside right now are Rashawn Yates and Pinckney. Both of those guys, Kelvin Pinckney. And Kelvin Pinckney, I would put him as another guy on that list. He was a guy I wasn't real sure at the beginning of the year. He had to kind of make a decision if he was going to, whenever the opt-out and all that, and he decided he wanted to stay and play. And he's been very consistent for us, and we're glad to have him. So those have been a few of those guys. There's been a lot of those guys that continue to push, but those are a couple of the probably that have been leaned on a little bit more than some of the others.
One young guy that's really stepped up, continued to step up on defense, Christopher Townsend, 11 tackles, made some plays earlier in the year. What can you say about the job he's doing?
Yeah, that is probably to your question earlier. Some guys that are getting a lot of reps that will be playing in the future. Townsend would be one of those guys. It's kind of learning by fire. You'd like him to be out there getting reps and maybe not having to play the entire game. He got tired also because he's on a lot of special teams too. But this is a great experience for him. He's one of those guys. I'm really pleased with our freshman class and have a lot of optimism of what those guys are going to be able to help us do in the future. And he's one of those guys that's kind of the leader in that class and athletic guy. And he's been moved around a couple of times based off some of the injuries to multiple. We play with 3 safety set, and he's really played all 3 of those safety spots, and got plenty to work on and all that, just like everybody. Young guy, but he's going to be a really good player for us.
Hey, when you started the year, how many guys did you have? What was the number?
Yeah, before the opt-outs, we had 115.
Okay.
Yeah. We're practicing with 64 today.
Almost half.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think there's also something to be said. I hadn't done the study, but first-year coaches going into this situation, there's always attrition in your first year, right? Most places that you go in, a place that hasn't been winning, and a new coach comes in and kind of sets the standard. And some guys were recruited to a different scheme or whatever. Their coach isn't there anymore, so they want to leave. You're usually going to lose about 10 guys whenever new coach staff comes in. So I think if you look at probably the programs, Florida State, I know they've had some guys leave as well. So that magnifies the issue with COVID. I think probably for some of the first year coaches, because you already were starting with you know, at 100 instead of 115 before you got to to a lot of the other situations.
For this year, you seem upbeat and you seem handling this.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other. It's kind of like we told our players, there's no other choice, right? I mean, it's either be positive about it and find ways, you know, for us to improve and go where we want to go as a program. I guess I'd say if this was year 4 or 5 for me as a head coach, it'd be hard to be optimistic right now. But what I've learned from our guys, not from the scoreboard, there are no you know, moral victories or anything like that. But you know, like I truly believe it. We've had 2 years worth of adversity in 1 year. And so I've learned twice as much from my guys that I typically would in a first year. And I think the core, again, I'm not going to talk about guys that aren't here or whatever. Everybody has their own situations, and we fully respect that. But the guys that are still here, that are part of that 65 out there, like, they got something to them. And as a coach coming in to a place where you haven't recruited the majority of your team, like, it may take you 2 years usually to find out, like, who really wants to play football, who has the mental and physical toughness to play football and to get through the hard times. And so that's probably been the positive of this. And then also knowing that this isn't some life sentence, that we're going to be, you know, we're going to get back to 120 guys come August with all the guys that come back, and with transfers and with signees and new walk-ons. And, you know, there'll be a chance for a really strong transformation. And, you know, we'll look back at this and be able to build off of it for sure. So, but my overall, what I learned from where I was in the past, really learned from Coach Sweeney, is just to, no matter what, it's not a Pollyanna positive mindset where everything's great when it's really not. It's not that at all. You have to recognize the reality of where you are, but how do you choose to respond, right? And, I mean, I could walk into that team meeting with our team and I could get them all down real quick, you know, within 3 minutes. But I can also walk in that room and say, hey, I know this is tough, but hey, we're going to respond the right way. I'm proud of you guys for how you responded. Man, let's go be resilient again, and the best is yet to come. Ready, break. Go out there and practice, and that's what we've done. So I think as a coach, you have a chance, and as a leader, you have a chance to influence your players and even your coaches. I mean, this has been difficult for everybody, but there's only one way to respond and be able to have progress in the future. And I feel like that's what we're doing right now.
Jeff, it's like this week preparing for an opponent is secondary. It's all about staying healthy so you can play that opponent.
Yeah, that's a tough balance. Yeah. And Navy's a really good opponent. They got a unique scheme, and it's a disciplined scheme where, like I've said before, alignment, assignment, everybody has their own gaps. So, you know, we're preparing. I know that. We're practicing and doing, you know, what we can do to prepare our guys for the game.
Does a guy like KJ, I mean, does that just seem like it's piling on now? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it more for KJ than I do for our team, just because, you know, he's a really good player, got a bright future, had a really good career in college and career here, done a lot of good things, and there's nothing more he wants to do than finish out, you know, at least 2 more games with his teammates. So he was really disappointed when he got the news yesterday. But I told him, hey, now you got to, you know, be on the sidelines and help encourage, you know, these other guys that are going to go in there and play for you. So I know he'll do that.